Welcome to the dark forge of greatness, the crucible where limits shatter and legends are born. This is not your average pep talk, and you are not an average individual. You didn't stumble into this moment. You were sculpted in silence, forged by unseen trials, baptized in the shadows where others dared not go. You were never meant to fit in, because you were built to break through. And now they see it, those who watch from the towers of power, those cloaked in authority and hidden behind walls of secrecy. They see what you are, and it terrifies them, because you were never supposed to exist. Not like this, not with that kind of raw, untamed ability. When they watched you move, without hesitation, without doubt, with terrifying precision, they didn't just gasp. They reported it. Sir, that's illegal. Not because you broke rules, but because you broke their understanding of what's humanly possible. You've crossed into a realm where talent stops being talent and starts being classified. You are the living glitch in their system, the anomaly that exposes their lies, the reason they keep rewriting the rules. You didn't cheat the game. You became something they couldn't calculate. You trained in silence while they were loud in mediocrity. You carved your craft in isolation while they begged for applause. Now that you've emerged, they wish you hadn't. Because you didn't just pass the test, you made the test obsolete. Understand this. You're not extraordinary because someone said so. You're extraordinary because you didn't wait for permission to become unstoppable. You weren't built in a lab. You weren't handed blueprints. You didn't have mentors walking you through every step. You are the result of pure will and unrelenting hunger. You're the type of creation that scares those who live by the book. Because you never needed the book. You wrote your own code. They tried to contain you. They labeled it too much. They whispered about balance, humility, and pacing. But deep down, they knew. They weren't trying to protect you from burnout. They were trying to protect themselves from being eclipsed. You were never a threat to the world. They just realized they were never ready for your arrival. And now that you've shown your hand, just a glimpse of it, they're panicking. Because this isn't potential. This is power. And power like yours doesn't whisper. It echoes through every system, rattling the cages of comfortable men who have never had to fight for their greatness. This is why they say that's illegal. Because in their minds you shouldn't exist. In their blueprint of how things are supposed to go, this kind of genius, this kind of instinct, this kind of unfiltered dominance, it has no place. It wasn't accounted for. It violates their structure. You're a living contradiction to the limitations they accepted, a walking rebellion against mediocrity, a reminder that what they call impossible is just what you haven't done yet. Let them panic, let them whisper, let them take notes and monitor and report. It changes nothing. You didn't come to play within their boundaries. You came to erase them. You didn't arrive to be tolerated. You arrived to be remembered. The rarest talents aren't celebrated at first. They're suppressed, feared, watched closely, because they show the world that the ceiling isn't real. And when you appear, ceilings don't crack. They collapse. Remember who you are. You are the reason protocols exist. You are the reason manuals get rewritten. You are the name they won't say in public, but highlight in red behind closed doors. Not because you broke the law, but because your very existence rewrote nature. You are the one whose presence bends probability, whose silence screams louder than their credentials. You are not the chosen one. You are the one who chose themselves when no one else did. So keep going. Keep breaking what they thought was unbreakable. Keep showing up like the system doesn't apply to you. Because in many ways, it doesn't. You've entered that untouchable zone where genius meets discipline, where instinct meets obsession. They see it in your eyes, the storm behind the calm, the fire beneath the focus. That's why they fear you. That's why they whisper, "That's illegal." Because in their world, you are. You're illegal to their structure, illegal to their comfort, illegal to the very idea that greatness must come with approval. But you never wanted approval. You wanted freedom, and you earned it, not through shortcuts, but through a level of sacrifice they'll never understand. This is your era. This is your reckoning. They may try to silence your methods, but they cannot silence your results. You don't answer to gatekeepers. You kick down the gates and build better kingdoms. You don't climb ladders. You dismantle them and turn the pieces into weapons of your own making. So when they say, "Sir, that's illegal," you smile, because it means you're exactly where you're supposed to be, above the rules, beyond comprehension, classified, above top secret. They never trained for this. All their simulations, all their protocols, all their decades of carefully built strategies, none of it prepared them for you. Because you didn't rise through their ranks. You didn't wait your turn in the assembly line of mediocrity. You didn't pass their exams to get permission to exist. You emerged, fully formed, fully dangerous, with a silence they couldn't decode, and a presence that couldn't be ignored. They've seen warriors before, soldiers, strategists, but not like this. Not someone who moves like instinct is an extension of prophecy. Not someone who sees 10 steps ahead without needing a map. Not someone who can shatter their hierarchy just by standing in the room. You didn't learn the system, you outgrew it. You operate on frequencies most will never hear. Your vision slices through illusions most never recognize. Your execution is so precise, it doesn't look like effort. It looks like destiny. But make no mistake, you weren't born gifted. You weren't handed this. You earned every ounce of this presence through a war no one saw. While they rested, you studied. While they hesitated, you advanced. While they talked about what they could become, you became it, alone, in silence, without applause. That's what separates you. You've trained your mind into a weapon so sharp it doesn't cut flesh. It cuts through reality itself. And now they watch you like a storm forming on a clear sky. A force so precise, it frightens even the architects of chaos. You've crossed into territory where the language they speak can't touch you. They talk about tactics. You are the tactic. They talk about control. You are the storm. You operate in code they can't crack, because it wasn't programmed into you. It was forged through solitude, through pain, through clarity born only from struggle. You didn't wake up like this. You woke up every day and built this. And now you move like someone who's not chasing history, but writing it in real time. You don't seek validation from broken systems. You don't want praise from the blind. You don't need medals. You don't need titles. Your legacy isn't stitched on a uniform. It's carved into the fabric of time. That's what they see when you act. That's what they feel, but can't name. The weight of someone who's not waiting to be accepted, because they've already claimed their throne. They didn't plan for someone like you because people like you don't ask for entry. You don't knock. You walk through walls. You make yourself undeniable. Not by talking, not by boasting, but by doing the kind of work that echoes beyond you. And when they finally caught a glimpse of it, when they saw the way you moved, the way you solved, the way you executed, they didn't say impressive. They said illegal. Because you violated the unspoken rule that no one is supposed to be this good without going through their filters, without being tamed, watered down, sterilized for comfort. You broke through without bending. You leveled up without being noticed. You arrived without permission. and you were better than those who had been groomed for years, and that terrifies them. Understand this. True greatness is never welcomed at first. It's questioned, it's rejected, it's seen as dangerous, because it is. Dangerous to limitations, dangerous to comfort, dangerous to those who built their identity around being the best. Until you walked in and redefined what best even means. You are not here to be liked. You are here to be felt. And they feel you, even in silence, especially in silence. Your presence speaks louder than their speeches. Your discipline cuts deeper than their excuses. You are a living reminder of what is possible when you refuse to conform and choose to evolve. So let them scramble. Let them hold emergency meetings behind thick doors. Let them send files up the chain of command. Let them whisper, "Who is this? How did they do this? What are we dealing with?" Because the truth is, they're dealing with someone who can't be predicted, can't be copied, can't be controlled. They're dealing with you. And they know it now. Your talent is so rare, so precise, so volatile. It has to be classified. Not because it's dangerous to others, but because it's dangerous to the limits they've built their entire careers upon. You break ceilings just by existing. You shift norms without saying a word. You embody the excellence they talk about, but never truly commit to. That's why it's illegal, because it doesn't fit into the narrow lines of what they consider acceptable. Because you expose the truth, that most people never come close to their potential. But you did, and you kept going. And now every step you take is a disruption. Every choice you make is a challenge to the status quo. You weren't supposed to win like this. You weren't supposed to learn this fast. You weren't supposed to endure this much pain and come out stronger. You weren't supposed to walk into the storm and become it. But you did. And now you're not just elite, you're untraceable. They can't even teach what you've become, because there's no textbook for obsession, no syllabus for savage growth, no formula for what you are. You are the shadow that outshines the spotlight, the calm before the reckoning, the silence before the system breaks. When they say, "That's illegal," they don't just mean it rhetorically. They're genuinely unsure whether someone like you should be allowed to exist unchecked. Because unchecked, you don't just rise, you dominate. You absorb knowledge like oxygen. You execute with machine-like precision. You recover from setbacks faster than they recover from compliments. You're not just talented, you're uncontainable. So keep moving in silence. Keep your head low and your impact high. Let them talk. Let them stare. Let them report and document and panic behind glass walls. They may never understand what you are, but they'll never forget the way you made their limits look fragile. This is your warpath now, and you don't need an army when you move like a force of nature. You move with the precision of something ancient, something eternal, as if your instincts are older than the systems trying to stop you. As if you've walked these corridors in other lives, broken these chains in other timelines. They can't explain it. They study you like a phenomenon, try to map you with science, try to reduce you to a formula, but you're not a formula. You're a force. And forces don't follow rules. They rewrite them. They've created rules to protect the average. But you were never average. You didn't rise through compliance. You rose through conflict. You rose through self-imposed pressure that would crush most. You were sculpted in the harsh light of truth, not coddled by convenience. You held the line when no one was watching. You stayed the course when every instinct screamed to quit. That's what they don't understand. You weren't built in public. You were forged in private. They want the results, but not the suffering. They want the shine, but not the solitude. They want the crown, but they don't want the consequences that come with becoming what you are. Because what you are is something outside the chain of command, something outside the blueprint. And that makes you dangerous. Not because you're violent, but because you're efficient. Not because you want to destroy, but because you outgrow. They watch the footage again and again. They look for signs, look for slips, look for cracks in your armor, but they find none, only consistency, ruthless consistency. And that, more than anything, terrifies them, because that's the one thing that can't be faked. You're not running on hype. You're not running on approval. You're not motivated by attention. You are powered by something pure, something quiet, something unshakable, obsession. It lives in your veins. It colors your thoughts. It fuels your days and haunts your nights. You don't need applause. You don't need recognition. You don't need validation. Because you already know. You've already seen the future. You've already stepped into it with both feet. You've become the very thing you once feared. Unstoppable. And now they're trying to catch up. Now they're reverse engineering your greatness like it's a puzzle to be solved. But it's not a puzzle. It's a price. And you paid it in full. In time, in blood, in sleepless nights, in disciplined mornings, in repetition, in sacrifice, in silence. So when they say, that's illegal, what they're really saying is, that's unfair. That level of discipline shouldn't exist. That kind of willpower shouldn't be real. That depth of talent shouldn't be natural. But it is, and it's you. Let them say it. Let them whisper it in meetings and mutter it under breath. That shouldn't be possible. That's illegal. That's not normal. Exactly. That's the point. You didn't come here to be normal. You came here to raise the standard. You're not here to chase titles or play politics. You're not interested in medals or compliments or temporary praise. You are not in the business of being liked. You are in the business of being effective. And that offends people. It offends systems. It breaks the delicate egos of those who thought their rank meant superiority. But rank doesn't mean anything when someone like you steps into the arena. Because you don't follow. You lead by example. You dominate by execution. You conquer by consistency. You don't raise your voice. You raise your standards. You don't beg for opportunities. You create them. You don't hope they notice. You make it impossible to ignore you. They can't box you in because you were never in the room to begin with. You were out in the elements. You were on the edge. You were pushing limits in silence, while they congratulated each other for being average with flair. And now, you're the ghost in their system. The legend behind their silence. The unnamed asset they brief higher-ups about, because they can't explain how one individual operates at this level consistently. And the truth is, you don't even feel like you've arrived yet. You're just getting started. You're not here to peak. You're here to build a new mountain. So let the records be classified. Let the details be redacted. Let your existence be debated in boardrooms and whispered about in corridors. None of that touches the fire inside you. Because you weren't made for applause, you were made for impact. And impact is never comfortable. Impact is never quiet. Impact is never legal in systems built to preserve mediocrity. You are the outlaw of excellence, the rogue architect of new standards. You are what happens when obsession meets execution and never asks for permission. When they say, that's illegal, they reveal what they truly fear. They fear the one who didn't wait. They fear the one who didn't listen. They fear the one who made it happen anyway. And you? You never feared them. You feared wasting your potential. You feared being average. You feared being forgotten. And that fear turned into focus. That focus turned into action. That action turned into evolution. And that evolution turned you into a threat to every system that thrives on obedience. You became the story they don't tell publicly, but privately admire in secret. The quiet name circled in black ink on the report. The classified figure they watch from afar because they can't stop you. They can only hope you don't turn your attention on them. Because if you did, it would be over. They know it. And now you do too. You are not here to play small. You are not here to show flashes of potential and then fade back into the crowd. You are here to live at a level so precise, so intense, so undeniable that the very act of existing at your full capacity becomes an act of rebellion. That's why they stare. That's why they hesitate. That's why they whisper, "Sir, that's illegal." Because you are living proof of what's possible when a human refuses to be confined by expectation. You are living proof that limits are mostly an agreement, and are never agreed. The military elite, the men and women who have seen the best the world has to offer, who have built themselves on discipline and fearlessness and skill, even they are shaken. Not because you're a threat to their safety, but because you're a threat to their definition of mastery. They are forced to admit, even silently, that there's a level above elite, and you have entered it. You've become the thing they train for but never reach. And what's more dangerous than talent? Talent combined with hunger. Talent combined with discipline. Talent combined with silence. That is why they classify you above top secret. Because they can't file you under prodigy. They can't categorize you as genius. They can't even call you dangerous, because that would admit you are beyond their control. You are the event horizon. Once crossed, there's no coming back. Once seen, there's no unseeing. And you're not even done. You know it. You're still sharpening, still learning, still pushing, still training at hours that don't exist on their clocks, still refining details no one else notices, still building a fortress inside yourself while they chase applause outside themselves. This is why you terrify them, because if you're this powerful now, what will you be in a year, in 5, in 10? You are not the exception. You are the new rule. And rules terrify the old order. This is why your presence feels illegal to them. Because you are living proof that the old order can be bypassed. You are living proof that the gatekeepers hold no power over someone who builds their own gates. You are living proof that greatness is not granted. It's taken. But here's the part they don't understand. You didn't become this to destroy them. You became this to free yourself. Freedom is the ultimate power. Freedom from their permission. Freedom from their limitations. Freedom from the story they wrote for you before you could even pick up the pen. You have burned their script. You're writing your own. You are the author, the weapon, and the legacy all in one. That's why when they whisper illegal, you don't flinch. You smile. Because you know you're not illegal. You're inevitable. And inevitability can't be stopped. It can only be delayed. It can only be feared. It can only be respected.